Hi, and welcome to Ivy English. I'm Angela.
And I'm Wesley.
Today is the 15th of October, and we're on page 42 of the magazine. Today, we're going to talk about the facts and fiction of a famous fraudster. And thank you, Mr. Foden, for this wonderfully alliterative title. Facts, fiction, famous fraudster. Well done.
好多 F 的声音，所以这个有它的修辞效果，这是英文的标题。那中文的标题呢是法兰克艾巴内尔他的行骗天下。
Wow, even the dude, his name begins with a F.
Yeah.
Frank. Okay, let's read the article so we can get into talking about what it is. While we may totally disapprove of their actions, we are nevertheless often fascinated by people who commit daring acts of deception. You can call them con men, con artists, scammers, or fraudsters. Whatever name you give them, they are all basically liars and cheaters. One of the most famous con men is Frank Abagnale Jr., whose life was portrayed in the 2002 Hollywood movie Catch Me If You Can. Based on Abagnale's autobiography of the same name, the movie tells the story of how he poses as an airline pilot as well as several other professionals. Over several years, he also uses fake checks to steal millions of dollars. In the film, Abinail, who is very close to his parents, is shocked when he is informed they want to divorce. Told he must choose whether to live with his mother or father, the teenager runs away from his home in New York State instead. To support himself, he uses checks, even though he only has $25 in his bank account. Knowing he must come up with another way to find money, he decides that pretending to be a pilot would be a good way to trick people into giving him money. He phones Pan American World Airways, or Pan Am, and tells them he is a pilot who lost his uniform and convinces the company to give him a new outfit. This allows him to cash forged checks that he claims to be his paychecks from Pan Am. His forgeries catch the attention of the FBI, particularly an agent named Carl Hanratty. As the plot develops, Hanratty works hard trying to track down Abagnale, while the con artist continues to outwit him by changing identities. The result is an enjoyable, entertaining movie. Okay, we're stopping here in the article because we're going to discuss this over 2 days. I really enjoyed this movie. It makes everything fun and light, and you know that you're celebrating a criminal, and at the same time, it's too much fun.
真的是这部电影呢，是娱乐性很高你看起来还蛮好玩的。虽然说你知道它其实讲的是一个诈骗的行为但是它娱乐性相当高。那我想我们这篇文章也是一样这个强调的是它的娱乐性但对于诈骗、诈欺这件事情当然是不好的。因为我觉得像诈欺或者诈骗，这最糟糕的就是你利用别人对你的信任。所以别人是好心或者是相信你，那你这样去利用，然后甚至于这样背叛别人，我觉得这是非常非常不道德、非常不应该做的事情。
You're basically abusing people's trust or social contract, and it's not okay.
所以真的是不好。你是 abusing people's trust， 就是你等于是滥用别人对你的信任，还有整个社会运作的一些很好的模式社会上很多事情就是彼此信任，那就很容易做好。但是你去破坏这种信任的话，那社会也会因为这样子而付出代价。
Yeah, it's true. Yes, so let's read the beginning of the article. While we may totally disapprove of their actions, to disapprove of something is to not approve of it.
Yeah, to think that something is wrong
to
or
say
bad.
That something is wrong or bad. And it's true, what he did is wrong and bad. We are nevertheless, even so, we are often fascinated by people who commit daring acts of deception. And the reason is that I think our inner child is always interested when you can get away with something.
Yeah, 因为我们心里面内心深处总觉得，如果你可以 get away with something， 做了什么事情不要被逮到，这大家都会觉得这是很快乐的事情所以我们会喜欢看这种骗子做这些事情但是我觉得这些骗子被逮到的时候，我是觉得更快乐。
Let's talk about nevertheless for a second.
Sure.
Another way to say it is nonetheless. What's the best Chinese translation for that?
虽然不过然而 Yeah, it's difficult to translate.
It's difficult to translate because there's no direct equivalent to Chinese. There's like those three that you just mentioned are the closest you can come. But it's kind of like even so, like even though we have one feeling, we still have another feeling. That's what nevertheless is about.
Yeah. 所以 nevertheless 其实语气蛮强的，就尽管是这样虽然是这样，但是怎样怎样那种感觉。
Yeah.
好，所以这个句子他说while 就是尽管我们也许是 totally 我们是完全的 disapprove of 不赞成 their actions 他们的作为，尽管我们完全不赞成他们的作为，但是呢尽管如此我们仍然 we are nevertheless often fascinated by 我们仍然常常被这 to be fascinated by 就是为什么所深深吸引或者着迷。好，尽管我们不赞成他们的行为，但是我们还是很容易被这些人吸引。什么人会吸引我们呢？或者我们会为什么样的人着迷呢？就是这些人他们 commit 就是犯下 daring acts of deception 犯下一些很大胆的诈骗行为的人，我们都还是觉得 fascinating我们还是觉得他们是非常 fascinating， 那我们是 fascinated by them。 好， commit 就是犯下，通常是 do something wrong 或者 illegal， daring 就是大胆的，那 acts of deception 就是欺骗的行为， deception 就是欺骗。
You can call these people con men, con artists, scammers, or fraudsters. Con men, con artists are still pretty often used. Scammers, yes. Fraudsters is not that common anymore.
Yeah. 好，所以呢，你可以称他们怎么样 ？Con men 好，可以骗子con artists 他们也是这个行骗者，因为他们有的时候你不得不说，他们骗你的方法是某一种 art 非常的这个聪明就来骗你
But it's a little too positive, don't you think?
Yeah, 有一点点非常 positive. Yeah. 那 scammers 就是诈骗者scam 通常是用一个不诚实的计谋来骗你那 con 的话呢 ，con 常常他比较强调的是骗取信任。说谎骗取信任要你去做一些你不该做的事情然后呢最后这个 fraudsters 这是诈欺者意思也差不多。那 fraud 常常是说用诈骗的手段，尤其骗别人的财产或者让别人放弃他的权益，这常常在生意上面会有 fraud 那 fraudster 这个字呢不如前面这三个常用。现在
Yeah, I think the most modern of these four words is scammers.
所以这现在最常见的或者感觉最现代的这几个 term 里面其中之一，最现代的感觉最常见的就是 scammers 这个字。
But whatever name you give them, they are all basically liars and cheaters.
那不管你给他们什么名字，他们基本上都是 liars， 都是说谎者，然后 cheaters 就是诈骗者、欺骗者、骗子。
One of the most famous con men, and he's famous because of this movie, is Frank Abagnale Jr., whose life was portrayed or shown in the 2002 Hollywood movie Catch Me If You Can. And I think one reason why his story is relatively popular is because his crimes are there's a term in American English called victimless crime, where you're not cheating individual people, you're cheating corporations. And Americans have this idea that cheating corporations is acceptable because anyways corporations are cheating us. This is not my personal opinion. This is the popular idea. So because corporations cheat us, it's totally okay to cheat corporations. And so that is what's thought of as a victimless crime. But it is still a crime against society, and it breaks social trust and causes, huge laws to be made, and it does affect us. It's not a victimless crime.
Yeah. 好，所以像这个我们等一下讲这位主角呢，他之所以很有名，而且看这电影的时候很多人会比较没有被他的诈骗行为觉得很痛恨的原因，是因为他是属于这种所谓的 victimless crime 就是没有受害者的这个犯罪因为他诈骗的对象都是这种大的公司，很有钱的公司。那在美国很多人就觉得说，这些有钱的公司反正平常从我们这边赚那么多钱去了，而且有的时候搞不好还骗我们的钱，所以你去骗他们钱骗点回来也没什么关系，有这种感觉但是事实上任何的诈骗一定会有人受害你所以说就算这个大公司他钱赔给你了，他要想说哇我损失这么多钱，我要赶快去别的地方再赚一些所以其他人还是会受到影响的 所以这个地方我看到他说这个最有名的一个骗子就是 Frank 这个 Abinail Jr 那他的 life 他的一生呢 whose 就是所有个关系代名词，他的故事这个 life 你可以说是人生啦，但在这里其实没有到整个人生啦，你就可以说他的故事翻成他的故事。他的故事呢被描述 portrayed 被描述被表现在2002年的好莱坞电影这个我们中文翻成神鬼交锋 Catch Me If You Can.
Based on Abinail's autobiography of the same name, an autobiography is a story of your own life. Auto meaning yourself, and bio is life and graphy is writing.
Yeah,
so
writing.
It's a life story written by yourself.
Yeah.
And so this movie, which is based on the autobiography, it tells the story of how he poses as an airline pilot as well as several other professionals. Now, why do we say poses present tense verb as opposed to posed past tense? Because this all happened in the past. We should say posed, right? But in this case, we're talking about the story. We're talking about what happens in the story, and we think about stories as eternal. So in the story, it is always true that he always poses as an airline pilot, even though we're describing one thing that happens in the past. Isn't English fun?
Yeah, 所以我们可以看到说，首先我们先介绍这个句子前半部 based on 是根据他的 autobiography 他的自传of the same name 他的同名的自传，所以这电影是根据他同名的自传拍的。那这个电影呢 tells the story of 他说的是谁的故事呢？说的是或者说的是什么故事呢？说的是后面这个 how he 这个主角如何的 poses as 那 pose as 这个片语本身的意思 pretend to be 假装。那刚刚 Angela 老师谈到说为什么这个地方他用现在式呢？因为这地方讲的是故事的情节那英文里面因为各位可以这样想，所谓的现在式有一个特色，就是只要条件是这样子它一定会发生就是它会不断发生的事情，那也是用现在式。所以说 I get up at 6 every morning 这是例句而已 I don't
I was going to say really
yeah, 但所以只要是早上你就6点钟起床，所以用现在式。那你可以想说这个故事写成书了在那边，所以你不管什么时候你去看这个电影，不管你什么时候去读这个故事，它都是这样子，所以它是现在式，它不是一个过去的，它不会感觉起来是一个过去的跟现在无关的事件，随时去看它随时是这样，所以都是用现在式。所以它假装是一个飞机驾驶员 as well as 他也假装了一些其他的professionals 专业人士。
Over several years, he also uses fake checks to steal millions of dollars. And again, this is also in the present tense because we're still talking about this eternal story.
Yeah, 好，那over several years 在几年的时间当中呢，他也怎么样？他也使用了 fake checks 这个 fake 就是假的伪造的，它主要是伪造的。好 not genuine 这个 genuine 是 genuine 好，所以他不是伪造，他用伪造的这个支票 to steal 盗取 millions of dollars 盗取了数百万美元。那在当年数百万美元是很大的数字。
Yeah, also this is the 60s, so millions of dollars in the 60s is...
Yeah, 不得了，60年代
It's double in today's money at least.
Yeah, 那60年代的100万美元至少是现在100万美元的这个价值最少是 double. Yeah.
Oh, you just said genuine. Another way that we say genuine is real.
Oh, yeah.
So he uses real checks or fake checks. But real is more ambiguous because real means so many different things in English. So to be precise, genuine is the better word.
Yeah, 这个 genuine 它另外一个是有 real， 所以你也可以讲 real checks 也可以，但是 real 在英文里面意思太多了，所以如果你要很精准的讲，你就用 genuine 这个字。
Now, in the film, Abinail, who is very close to his parents, is shocked when he is informed they want to divorce. So this is a very good example of how putting information in the sentence right after the verb, right after the subject, can pack a lot of punch. So we find out that Abinail is very close to his parents before we find out that he's upset when they divorce. And this is just a good way to pack an entire story into one sentence.
没有错这个 Angela 老师提醒这个位，像这个句子里面这个关系代名词子句用得非常的好Who is very close to his parents 这个用得非常好，因为在 这个主词马上后面我们就添了这个关系代名词子句下去，好，就告诉人家一些很重要的资讯，关于这个主词很重要的资讯。所以我们这个句子一开始读到说，在这个电影里面呢，这位主角，然后我们马上就知道说他跟他的父母亲感情很好啊 ，is very close to， 就他跟父母亲感情很好。那你要知道他父母亲感情很好这件事情之后，你接下来才会了解到说他 is shocked， 感到震惊或者受到很大的打击。When he is informed， 当他被告知 they want to divorce， 他们要离婚啊，所以他赶快要先交代你一下，要告诉你说这个他跟父母亲感情很好，你才能知道说为什么当他听到父母亲离婚的时候，他感到很震惊，受到打击。所以这种关系代名词子句放在主词后面，立刻添加一些很重要的了解这个故事的讯息啊，这个用法非常的好，各位可以多体会一下这种用法。
Told by his parents he must choose whether to live with his mother or father, a choice he doesn't want to make, the teenager does a different thing. He instead runs away from his home in New York State.
好，那 told 前面省略了一个 being， 好，那 being told 他被告知，这是分词构句，他必须要 choose 选择 whether to 看是要live with his mother or father， 看是要跟他爸爸住还是跟他妈妈住啊？那他必须要选择，他被告知他必须要选择，那他怎么办呢？这位青少年他就 runs away from his home in New York， in New York State， 好，他从他纽约州的家就逃家了啊。那 instead 放在最后就是而是的意思，就是他没有去选说到底要跟妈妈住还是跟爸爸住，他而是怎么样呢？他干脆就逃家了。
To support himself, he uses checks. What does it mean to support himself? What we mean by it is in order to get food and shelter and transportation to all the things for which he needs money, to support himself with money, he gets his money by writing bad checks, by writing fake checks, even though he has only $25 in his bank account. So he's writing checks against his bank account, which hasn't got enough money in it. But at that time, we didn't really have a lot of backups for this. We didn't have instantaneous balance checking, for instance.
Yeah. 好，所以呢 to support himself 就是这个养活自己啊。为了养活自己哈 to support himself, he uses 他用什么呢？用支票哈，他就用支票。even though 尽管他银行账户里面只有25块美金啊，他还是用支票。换句话说，他开空头支票啊。那 in his bank account 就是他的账户啊，所以他在当年呢，因为当年的这个金融的整个检查机制不像现在这么发达，也没有说电脑连线怎么一下就查出来你到底有没有这些钱，所以当年呢比较有可能你可以就开个支票，那拿到你支票的人只好相信你说你这个支票里面真的可以兑现。
Honestly, it's because of bad check writers like him that is the whole reason why the United States has turned to credit cards as a system, because people just stopped having faith in checks.
事实上在美国就是因为很多人就随便乱开支票啊，那所以最后才慢慢发展出这个信用卡这样的一个交易的一种形式啊，就是因为大家都乱开支票，所以拿到支票的人实在是完全不知道怎么办啊，这到底这支票是真的还是假的
Yeah. So now credit card fraud is a big thing.
Yeah. 那当然呢，这个道高一尺呢，魔也大概会高一尺，好，所以彼此竞争，好，所以呢，这个你想到这些办法，那当然现在就很多人就是信用卡，伪造信用卡啊，所以慢慢又会有新的东西来取代信用卡了。
It's true. So knowing he must come up with another way to find money, so he knows that he can't just write bad checks on his own account for too long, so he decides that pretending to be a pilot would be a good way to trick people into giving him money. Because then as now, pilots are a very prestigious profession. But even then, even more so. And so he's like, well, people always believe pilots because pilots are like, high quality people. So if I'm a pilot, I can get what I need. And most of the movie is about how pilots are a high quality profession, basically.
Yeah.
Not high quality, a well-esteemed profession.
Yeah, 这很受人尊敬的一个职业。在当年那个 飞行员啊，尤其是民航机的飞行员是很受尊敬的一个职业。现在其实也是一样哈，因为他们的待遇非常的好，而且大家觉得说哇，他穿得很帅的制服啊，开着飞机全世界到处跑啊。那在电影里面也是一直花很多地方描写啊，这个民航机的这个驾驶员多么的威风啊，然后这个空姐啊头牌送报啊什么的哈。那电影里面就是这方面也描述很多啊，所以这里我们看到这个句子，他说 knowing 他知道他必须要 come up with 要想出 another way 要想出别的方法来 find money 来找钱啊，所以他决定 he decides 这里当然可以翻译成认为啦，但是其实用 decides 这个字表示他想了一下，他一定有一些选择，是做这个好还是做这个好，做这个好呢？最后他决定好，我就办飞机驾驶员，所以 he decides that pretending to be a pilot 那你假装是这个 pilot 在这里指的是客机民航机的驾驶员，他决定假扮民航机驾驶员 would be a good way 应该是个很好的方法 to 怎么样呢？来 trick someone into doing something 就是哄骗欺骗某人去做某件事情，所以他觉得当个民航机驾驶员应该是很好的办法，可以骗人给他钱，让别人给他钱啊，就是把他用去骗钱的意思。
So he does a very creative way. He does this in a very creative way. He phones Pan Am. He calls up Pan Am, Pan American World Airways, which at the time was a very prestigious airline. And he tells them he is a pilot who lost his uniform and somehow convinces the company to give him a new outfit. They actually do send him a pilot's uniform. And once you have the clothes, you're in like Flynn.
好，所以呢，这个地方他讲到说，他打电话给这个泛美航空公司啊，当年是很大的航空公司，然后告诉他们说，他是一个驾驶员啊，但是呢，他把他的制服弄丢了 ，who lost his uniform。然后他 convinces the company， 他居然说服了那家公司，给他一套新的 outfit 啊，这个整套的服装啊，这个整套的制服。所以这个地方他当然非常的厉害，他能够让航空公司都被他骗了啊！因为在我们来想说，你的制服掉了，那你就赶快到公司再拿一套啊！他居然想出一些办法来让他们告诉公司说，你一定要用寄给我。
Yeah, really. And then the other thing is that he looks the part. He's a handsome white male.
这个当然很重要，就是他看起来也是一副很专业的样子哈，他是白种人，然后长得很帅啊，所以这个诈骗犯呢，很多时候那个外表都是很容易就让你被他骗了。
Right. And so having this outfit allows him to cash forged checks that he claims to be his paychecks from Pan Am. His outfit makes his checks much more realistic seeming.
Yeah, 所以这让他得以 allows him to 让他得以 cash 就是兑现啊 ，forged checks forged 也是这个伪造的意思啊，所以他可以兑现一些伪造的支票。那这些支票呢 ，he claims 他宣称这些支票是他的 paychecks， 是他薪水的支票啊，而且是来自于这个泛美航空公司的。所以这是泛美航空公司的支票，难道是有可能是错的吗？啊，所以他用这一点来拿到金钱。
And of course, his forgeries catch the attention of the FBI because when these checks make their way back to Pan Am's going to be like, what? No. And so they're going to pass it along to the FBI. And so there is an agent at the FBI named Carl Hanratty who is particularly interested in catching this con man.
好，所以他的这些 forgeries， 他这些伪造的这个行为犯行呢，或者是他的这个伪造的支票呢 ，catch the attention of 就引起了谁的注意？引起了一位这个 FBI 干员的注意哈，尤其是一位叫做这个Carl Hanratty 这样的一个干员的注意。
And as the plot develops, it just turns into, a Warner Brothers cat and mouse game. It's basically Tom and Jerry, but in airlines. And so Hanratty works hard trying to track down Abagnale, and the con artist continues to outwit him by changing identities, the result being an enjoyable, entertaining movie.
那随着情节的发展as the plot develops， 这个干员呢 works hard， 他努力 trying to 想要 track down， 想要追捕这位Abinail， 然后 the con artist， 而这个 Abinail 呢 continues to 他持续的 outwit 就是 outsmart 骗过或者智取这个联邦干员，怎么这样骗过他呢？他一直改换他的身份 ，changing identities。那结果就是一个 enjoyable 很有乐趣的一个很好看的 entertaining 很有娱乐性的电影。
So this is just the first half of the story. Join us again tomorrow for the rest of the story.